So I'd like to introduce James, who's been a client and a participant in the DEO program for about a little over 2 years, about 2 years. I find certain qualities of entrepreneur to give them the capacity to really grow and develop amazing managed group practices. And James, for me, has those qualities and characteristics. So I really appreciate the capacities that he has, and I'd like to illuminate some of them, particularly in the area of associateships. He'll be a panel member on in the Associate Summit, and I think for the size of practices that are our market, he is a good model to follow. So James, why don't you introduce yourself a bit, and then we'll get on with a few questions about associateships.
Sure. Thanks for having me, Mark. My name is James VandeBerg. I'm an orthodontist in San Antonio, Texas. I graduated from residency in 2007 and thought I'd have one practice, one location for 30 years and retire, and that seemed like what would be a good fit for me. But after about 5 years, learned that that wasn't the ideal situation, and so I started hiring associates to kind of take my place and adding locations, both through acquisitions and de novos. And somewhere along the way, introduced pedo into the organization and have a pediatric dentist who's a partner on some of the locations. And now we're up to 7 locations, some strictly ortho, some strictly pedo, and some are both pedo and ortho, and looking to continue to grow.
And you're doing a fine job, by the way. I'm proud of you. You're welcome. So you have a variety of mix of associates, and you seem to do quite well with them. So the first question that would come up in the minds of the listener is, okay, what is the structural relationship that you have with them? Are they owners? Are they employees? Are they independent contractors? You know, what is the structures you've set up to recruit and retain your associates?
Sure. All of my associates, none of them have any ownership right now. The longest tenured associate I have has been with us over 3 years, and we've started to kind of go down that road of discussing what the criteria would be for her to buy into one location. And that's an orthodontist. I have another pediatric dentist who we're starting to have that conversation. She's been with us a little over a year now. So I haven't found the silver bullet for associates yet. So it's kind of an ongoing process. Like I said, I've only had associates for about 4 years now, and so I'm trying out different things,
and you're trying out different things. In the book Built to Last, there was one of the principles that they have is try a lot of things, keep what works.
Yes.
And so I want the people who are now engaged like you are in growing their enterprise, they often want the concrete, give me the formula, and then they try to replicate the formula that someone else invented. What I have found in my experience, if you create it yourself and go through the processes that you're going through, you come up with the formula that works for you. Mm-hmm. And you have to be willing to go through the risk and the trials to be able to do that. And that, for me, defines an entrepreneur. So the next question comes up is, so they're all employees at this point?
Most of them right now are independent contractors. We're actually in the process of changing them to W-2 employees. Just from a legal standpoint, I think that's more appropriate for them and what they do. They get paid a base salary plus kind of a production bonus. The production bonus usually works out to be about 25% of their paycheck. So there's a lot of upside potential if they're working really hard. Yeah, they make a lot of money. But if it's slow, they've got that guarantee that kind of a safety net to where they can pay their bills.
Okay. So, orthodontics is more an accrual basis than it is a cash basis. You go over months. How do you figure out their, whatever that percentage is that you give them if they do?
Sure. So it's a bonus based on their production, not collections. So, let's say we have production of 100,000 in a month for that doctor. Their production might be anywhere from 2 to 4% of it. So for that month, $2,000 to $4,000 bonus for that, and it's adjusted production, so it's minus any discounts that we give them. And our doctors, the full-time doctors, they're producing much more than 100,000 in a month.
Absolutely. So how do you set it up culturally for these guys to win in all these locations? And you do have a very mixed model. So
I do. I have some full-time orthodontists. I have some very part-time orthodontists that only work a couple days a month, and then half-time orthodontists. Some are young, some are semi-retired, some are in their 40s. So a mixed bag of everything. So I don't have just one way of doing it, but they're all great. I think all of my associates are fantastic, and how it's just a case-by-case basis,
I think we ought to pause right here because we're beginning to get into something that I think is cardinal to this whole conversation, is your relationship to the associates, not just the structure. And that really is the second part of this interview, is that who you are in that relationship generates something, because you just said it, they're fantastic. I mean, I talk to a lot of dentists. I don't think they would use that adjective around their associates. So what is the difference? That's really the question, that you could even say that. How do you hold them and how do you interact with them so that you could say, man, I have fantastic associates? What is it about James?
I can't imagine it any other way. I mean, if someone is coming to work in one of my offices where they're taking care of my patients, if I don't think they're fantastic, I wouldn't trust them to be taking care of the patients. On the front end, I think there's a lot of communication about expectations, because they're all different people. I mean, just like each one of your children is totally different, and they need different types of attention. Whether I listen to all of them and what they want from their professional life, and some people want money, some people want to have a relaxing job, as long as it's productive. So each of them, the attention they get from me is tailored to their personality, their level of competence, and some want a lot of attention from me. They want to be buddy with me. Some never want to see me, and that's fine, as long as they're getting the job done, and I get a lot of feedback through different methods about the associates, so that I have confidence in what they're doing. So I think some groups treat the associates like a cookie cutter approach, where we pay all our associates this much, this is what we do with them, and they're all treated the same, but they're all different people. They have very different backgrounds, different places they want to go in the future with their professional life. You've got to take all that into account and build a relationship based on who they are, and it takes a lot of work.
Absolutely. You said something that I think I want to underline. You talked about listening, that you really listen to the people and you ask questions about their need, their wants, their future. I think that's one of the missing pieces for most of the dentists who bring on associates, is they really don't listen to their associates. And there's something powerful in how one listens that determines the outcome of the relationship. So you provide, and I'll say it in the language that I speak, and I think you're a little used to it by now. You provide a listening that makes a difference for the associate that gives them a relationship to their job and the company in a way where they are committed. If you were talking to a group of, let's say, 250 people and were asked about the 3 top things that you would recommend they do to recruit and retain associates, what would be your top 3?
Make sure that you have a position that's going to fulfill what they want. I think a lot of associates come into a job and it isn't what they were sold on. The owner probably wasn't aware that they couldn't provide a situation that they thought was there. So, be sure of what you can offer that associate.
Okay.
That's number 1. And set expectations so that they know what it means for them to be successful in their position. I think a lot of people don't know what they need to do to be in the good graces of the practice, the staff, the owner. And so they're just kind of adrift and doing what they think is right without any clear boundaries and expectations. And I think that can lead to a lot of disappointment on both ends.
I totally agree. Expectations unfulfilled lead to upsets.
Mm-hmm.
And upsets are difficult to manage. The whole associate issue is difficult because they talk about millennials and they talk about selfishness and wanting a balanced life, and they want all of these things. Yet you have a number of millennials that are working with and for you. The average turnover rate is somewhere between 4 and 5 years, and often sooner in orthodontics, by the way. Not in pedo, but in orthodontics. So I'm wondering, what is different? Is there anything different that you bring to the party when you have a millennial associate?
Personally, I don't think so.
Great.
I think you pay associates really well. That's going to help retain them. Find out what they're looking for in their position, and what would it take to retain them long term, and see if it's feasible to give it to them. Everybody's different. There are some older associates that want the same things that millennials do.
Absolutely.
I haven't seen any difference.
Right. So most people operate through a stereotypical lens that these are who they are and this is how I have to manage them or speak with them, as opposed to what you're doing, which is they're human beings. Let's find out what's going on with them. How do we make it work for them? So I appreciate that as well. So there's no mystery for me when I look about your success with associates. Well, James, we're very excited to have you on the panel for the Associate Summit. We think you're going to be great. You'll probably be inundated with 12 billion questions about everything about what you're doing.
Okay.
But I just thank you for doing it, and thank you for being on this interview.
I'm looking forward to it, and thanks for having me, Mark. It's great to see you and talk with you.
All right, buddy. Take care.
You too. Bye.